following program is a production of Ho'ike Kaua'i Community Media.
Okay, aloha everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Respect everyone's time, all the people that did show up here on time. So appreciate you guys coming in. We're gonna go ahead and get started here. Wanted to welcome you folks to the community workshop number 3 for the Waimea 400 Affordable Housing Project. My name is Steve Franco. I'm the Housing Development Coordinator for the Housing Agency. Also here as a bunch of other housing staff, but our housing director, Adam Reversi, is also here. So we're gonna be going ahead and get started. We're gonna do a presentation to give you guys some updates on where we are in the process of the master planning. I'm gonna hand it over to our consultants, PBR Hawaii, to go ahead and get things started here. So again, if you folks haven't grab food and there's water and stuff in the back, please do help yourself throughout the presentation and throughout the night. But thank you for coming. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Kimmy Yuen from PBR Hawaii.
Aloha everyone. Can you hear me okay in the back? Okay, yes. Like Steve said, my name is Kimmy Yuen. I'm with PBR Hawaii. With me today is Matt Nakamoto and Carol Lidman. And so we'll be going through, like Steve said, a brief presentation, and then afterwards there'll be stations. So if you were here last time, we'll have all of the graphics printed big, and then we'll set up stations where we can talk story and you guys can write down or mark up the plans. So don't be afraid to mark up the plans when we lay them out, and we'll set up stations here too if you want to talk story over here. So, without further ado, let me give you some updates on the overall master plan for the 417 acres that the county owns. Our project today is just the housing area. So this was the master plan that came out for the entire 417 acres back in 2022. And today we're focusing just on the housing area, on the Mauka east part of the entire site. So it's about 60 acres. The rest of the site is based on input we got a couple years back, where we had over, I think, 700 responses, and we asked the community, what are your priorities for the uses? So number 1 was housing. A lot of you are familiar about the long time desire to have a sports complex here on the west side. So that was number 2. Paths, community gardens, farming, and agriculture were also highly ranked in that original community survey, along with ag park, pool, outdoor amenities, open space, skate park, shooting range, which I think the county's working on another location, the dog park, and equestrian trails. And so if you guys heard the mayor's State of the County speech, you might have caught that, yes, he has put in the budget $800,000 to start the design for the sports complex. So if you guys really want that in this community, be sure to tell your council members that that is a priority of yours as well. But today we're here for the number 1, which is the housing. So once that master plan kind of went through the community process and got finalized in what you're seeing, on the west side, right, the side you see, the zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, was imagined to be wetland restoration, because there's a lot of concern about when it does rain over here, there's water, right? And there's areas on the Mackay side in zone 1 that often is just kind of standing water. So we want to make sure that you guys know that the Department of Public Works, in parallel to this effort, is working on overall site studies to investigate the existing site. They did a topographic survey, and they're also going forward with the wetland restoration project with an engineering firm called Bowers and Kubota. Your Public Works Department is also working on a shared use path between Kaua'i and Waimea, and right now it's set off, it's about 50 feet off the highway, and that has been preserved in our plan. And like I said, the PBR team, we're here to work on the master plan for the housing area, so the 60 acres in orange. Now we can go. So like I mentioned, the Bowers and Kubota team, which is totally separate from this, they'll be having their own community meetings when they get to that point for wetland restoration and drainage study alternatives. They are working also on a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit, which they will need in order to do that, as well as a federal environmental review, which is the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, for the wetland restoration project. And again, that is totally separate from the housing project. But what they will also be doing is a state level environmental review. So the EIS, if you guys have heard of other EISs and other projects, they will be doing an EIS at the state level, which is the Hawaii Revised Statute in compliance with Chapter 343 for the entire 417 acres. So it will include our affordable housing area, as well as the sports complex and recreational areas and the agricultural areas. And that will actually include the wetlands, because the way we did that western part of the property is that you study where the water is flowing and draining. You set up and recreate the wetlands based on where it wants to be wet and where it's flooding. And then around those areas, you look at the areas that will stay dry. So that's where you would have agriculture or recreational open fields. You might also have agriculture that likes being wet or soggy, like lo'ikalo or those kinds of things. So that's all part of the Bowers and Kubota's efforts on the western part of the property. But for us, we're focusing again on the 60 acres on the Malka East corner of the property. So we had done a separate wetland survey, which we did get approved through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And what it's called is a jurisdictional determination. And I have a slide with that study, but basically what they found out was that the area where we have the housing is not jurisdictional waters. It is not seen as wetlands, so it would be fine to build housing there. We also, at our last meeting, presented architectural housing prototypes, which you have here again today for you to take a look at. We've done a market study, which Matt will kind of share the preliminary findings from there. Actually, it's finalized, sorry. So the findings from the market study, he'll go over those. And then we also have a civil electrical engineering that will be working on the technical kind of designs to support the housing area, as well as a traffic study. We'll do rough order of magnitude cost estimates and eventually lay out a subdivision map based on the lotting plan. See if that works for the community. And so like I mentioned, all of these go in sequence. We're here for the master plan to try to present to you the draft master plan that we've developed based on the input we got the last time we were here. We had presented 3 different conceptual alternatives. So we've refined the master plan into a draft master plan based on the input from the community. That will go through the environmental impact statement process with Bowers and Kubota. And then following that, we will still need to do land use entitlements because it's currently ag land. It exists in the county long-range plans for community use, so housing mixed use. But we still need to get it through state land use, district boundary amendments, as well as a 2-1H for the zoning. So once that's all done, then you can actually do the more detailed design and construction. So there's still many steps to go through before you actually see any vertical construction where the houses are actually being built on site. But that's where we are. Here we are. So the master plan, hopefully, we'll get your input and refine it. Let's see how this goes. So this is the wetland survey that we did, and I just want to go over this again because there was some concern from the community last time we were here that, oh, it floods a lot, there's standing water. But like I said, we did have the Army Corps clear it from jurisdictional waters. It's now wetlands. So there's a couple ditches, as you guys know, that run through the site. I don't know if you can see the yellow, but those Malka yellow ditches were not considered to be wetlands. There are 2 blue ditches at the bottom that were not part of the jurisdictional determination, but we will be preserving the yellow ditch that's running east-west, and then you'll see in the master plan that Kira will present, then Malcolm Mackay, we're also gonna keep that part of the ditch and use that for drainage. So since the western side of the property is envisioned for wetland restoration and again, the drainage study, the idea is to keep the housing area dry, that the ditches will integrate into our drainage system and it will be conveyed onto the western side as part of the overall wetland restoration and drainage study. So the jurisdictional determination from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is good from 5 years from when we got the determination, thank goodness, before everything went kind of haywire with the feds. So it's good from July of last year, so we have some time to get through our permitting. And with this, I'm turning it over to Matt.
Thank you, Kimmy. So as Kimmy mentioned, a affordable housing market study was conducted for Waimea 400, and the findings, summary of the findings are shown on the screen. So first of all, it demonstrated a really strong market demand, and it aligns with community preferences for ownership versus rental options if affordable housing is available. And second, it addresses critical housing needs across Kaua'i County, and the market study found that the county requires between 6,100 and 7,100 new housing units over the next 20 years. And 50, or about half of this demand, comes from the 30% to 140% area median income group, which are target markets for Waimea 400. Third, Waimea 400 has a really advantageous site location. There's proximity to major West Kaua'i employers, including Waimea High School, PMRF, and KVMH. Additionally, there's currently a limited supply of inventory of affordable housing in West Kaua'i. And lastly, the market study is supported by market comparisons and historical absorption rates of similar affordable housing projects across the island. So the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, defines affordability guidelines each year for Kaua'i County. And affordability in general is defined as households who pay no more than 30% of their gross income on total housing costs. So as you can see on the screen, area median income on the left, or AMI, is kind of served as a metric across different groups. So one column to the right, you see median household income, and all of these are based on a standard 4-person household. So at 30% AMI, a standard 4-person household would earn about $40,000 per year. And it goes up at 100% AMI, a standard 4-person household would earn about $133,000 per year. And at 140% AMI, a standard 4-person household would earn about $186,000 per year. And as we move to the column to the right, it shows maximum rental limits with utilities per month. So at 30% AMI, a household would pay a maximum of $995 per month, and it increases proportionately with income. So at the top of our scale, at 140% AMI, a 4-person household would pay no more than $4,600 per month. And the column all the way to the right is maximum for sale limits. So these are all based on a 7.5% interest rate across a 30-year mortgage period and a 5% down payment. So at 80% AMI, a household would pay a maximum, or they could afford a maximum of $338,000 per year. And at the top of our target group for Waimea 400, a household could afford a maximum of about $637,000 per year.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So on the next slide, you can go ahead and move it on to the next slide. We kind of wanted to just kind of give you guys a general idea based on our Limaola project out in LA, to kind of give you guys a general idea of what the total estimated home construction cost could be for the different models that you'll see in the presentation later on, and what we presented in previous community workshops. So as you can see, for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, 960 square feet or so, the estimated home construction cost is running about $336, and then for a 2-story, 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, you're running at about $553,000 for a total estimated home construction cost. And again, we're using our Limaola project in LA as a baseline for price per square foot and so forth. I wanted to point out in the next column, though, the estimated land and infrastructure costs that are usually associated with the development of single-family homes. In this case, and like at Limaola, the county is subsidizing that infrastructure and land costs. The county already owns the land, we paid for it already, and then we're going to be absorbing any type of infrastructure costs, like the roadways, electrical lines, water lines, sewer lines, all that kind of stuff. And that kind of comes out to about $120,000 per unit that we're not passing on to our home sales. So estimated total cost will net to be as low for a 2-bedroom as $336,000 to as high as $553,000. So that kind of just gives you a big picture. I know a lot of you are interested. That's a lot of the feedback that we got from the community and from the last meetings, that we want to see what the potential cost could be, or what can people even prepare for. So as Kimmy said, we are going through a long process still yet, and if you feel like I can't afford $553,000 right now, but you are still interested in trying to become a homeowner, we have on the left side over here, we have a whole bunch of information on how you can become a home buyer, get onto our home buyer list, seek out the resources that provide like home buyer education and home preparation, home counseling, home ownership counseling, and that kind of stuff. So this slide was to just kind of give you folks a general idea of what we're talking about if when we get to the point of developing single-family homes. I think you're gonna.
Question.
Yeah.
Like you said, my friend told me he bought one place there, but he bought one in a house. He not buy the land.
Yeah. So the county does sell properties, or the single-family sales that we're doing at Limaola. They are leasehold sales. So you're basically leasing the land from the county and purchasing the improvements. Yeah.
My question is, when you guys develop this thing, what will cost $1 million?
No, I mean, like I said, we don't know when we're going to be able to develop. But yeah, this is using the numbers that we have like currently right now for price per square footage. Yeah. We would hope to do it faster, but there's a whole bunch of things like Kimmy mentioned that we still got to do. It's a process. Yeah. Thanks. The next slide.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks, Uncle Barry. So then we go over just high-level survey results from the last time we were here, the 3 alternatives. And we have the survey results posted on our website, our project website, Waimea400housing.com. So it'll have all of these slides. It'll have the Ho'ike recording, which is being broadcast live right now, but we'll have a link to the recorded version. So if anybody you know couldn't make it today too, please encourage them to watch the video so they can hear the information. And we'll have, like I said, the station work in person, but then we also have an online survey. So if they couldn't make it today, they can still give feedback. But this is the summary of our meeting 2 workshop where we went over the conceptual plans. So had about 100 people respond to the survey. So concepts 1, 2, and 3, pretty evenly split, a third roughly for each. So concept 1 included 204 single-family units, 95 multifamily. We didn't have any live work in this one, so this was the lower density. And I think what's great about the county is that they're also trying to provide single-family options for affordable housing here, in addition to, right, like the multifamily ones that you see down the street at the Waimea, Kaua'i. So in this scenario, this one had a little bit higher in terms of the single-family units, no live work. All of the community facilities on the Mackay side, which technically is not in our affordable housing master plan, but we wanted to pull forward from the overall master plan, right? So you'll see it doesn't change in any of, okay, so the football field and track, so this is the sports complex, is the same in all three concepts, and we have it in the draft. We have the farmers market, the amphitheater, and skate park, ample parking for all of those facilities, as well as a covered gym and play courts. And then the blue around the existing wastewater facility was just kind of a reserve for other county uses. And then we had originally put the community gardens around it and some multifamily. So the things on the Mackay side of the property where the sports complex are the same in all of them. So I'm gonna go over it in each one. But just so you know the differences, it really focused on kind of the density and the unit types and the three alternatives. The next one, the next slide shows what people liked about it under the thumbs up section: large garden, green space, multifamily near green areas. They like the amount of single family housing, multifamily along roadways. Other suggestions though were to include more multifamily and reduce the amount of single family housing and include more commercial and shared spaces and focus on single family homes. So you'll see that, like, the breakdown was pretty evenly split. Some folks actually wanted more density and then some actually wanted more single family. So it's a pretty mixed bag. So concept 2 includes the live work along the main spine of the future community roads. This one had about 144 single family units, 154 multifamily units, so evenly split in about 22 live work units. What they liked: the amount and layout of the live work and space, amount of multifamily. They thought it was the best mix of housing types. Community suggestions, again, minimize multifamily and keep the live work housing to one side of the road. So, as I said, it kind of conflicts, but reality is, right, we try to come up with a solution that addresses all of the concerns. So, concept 3, higher density. So we had 147 single family, 146 multifamily, more live work units, mixed use, and community gardens, and all of the community facilities are the same. Concept 3, what people liked: dispersed multifamily areas, had the greatest amount of live work, which maybe allow for increased business opportunities, greatest number of housing units, and the greatest number of cottage type R10 zoning. Community suggestions on concept 3, inclusion of a mall instead of the 2 live work. They kind of pictured it as becoming like a strip mall. Focus on mixed use development, small commercial spaces and shared spaces. And they wanted parking, pedestrian circulation, and expanded bus service. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kira to talk about how we incorporated all the feedback into what we're presenting today as the draft master plan.
Okay, thank you, Kimmy. So we're going to move into going over what we came up with out of the feedback that was gathered from the 3 concept plans that were options. So this is the draft affordable housing master plan, and it takes the feedback and condenses it into one master plan. You can see that the single family housing on this concept plan is focused near the Mauka side. And as you move closer down towards the recreational area, the density gets higher. The top band here is the single family with lots that are over 6,000 square feet. And you can see these better and easier when we actually lay them out for you all. And then as you move closer to this middle area with the ditch, you'll see that these lots are under 6,000 square feet. And then this orange band would represent multifamily areas, and then moving down even more multifamily areas. The live work section is preserved here, and you'll see that the multifamily and the live work areas have housing and building plots laid out to see and give a sense of scale of what it could look like there. Other updates that we've included was changing this community garden buffer into a permaculture buffer to remove the gardens from the close proximity to the wastewater treatment plant, and including this potential bike path for emergency access to the road near Waimea, Kaua'i. And then also we added this community overflow boat parking near the single family areas to have a reserve and overflow area in case that the street parking doesn't include enough stalls. Other updates were adding the dog park back into the plan and adding some detailed shots of what the lot layouts will look like, potentially. These are drafts and up for review by you all. And then we also included street sections that are potential and draft street sections to show you a more close-up view. So we'll turn into that now. Okay, so you can see here on the key map, this is near the live work section, and this street section highlights that there are travel lanes with on-street parking, a wide sidewalk, and an access lane and perpendicular parking behind the buildings on both sides. Something to highlight in this is that the potential residential above a commercial space would have its own parking behind the building and its own access to eliminate the involving yourself in the traffic that's on the road in front of the businesses. In this street section, you'll see a potential and proposed residential street section with housing prototypes that include a longer driveway to include both of your vehicles or two vehicles on your property, and then a parallel parking on the street with sidewalks on both sides of the street. And the buildings are set back 15 feet, again, to include more parking on your lot. The next would be a potential community path section that runs along the historical ditch on the property, although it doesn't usually contain water. It would be preserved as a green path that just gives more relief space and more recreational space within the community. This includes some tree cover and equestrian path potentially, and then a shared use path for biking and other recreation. And then moving next, this is a close-up shot of the lot details that are potential. These include the housing prototypes that have been formulated for the community, and it gives another view of what the street would look like with the parallel parking and tree cover and sidewalks on both sides. And then this area shows what the larger lot size would look like. One thing to highlight here is that these lots would have a shared driveway in between them, and you would access from the road down a shared driveway and then to your home here. And then moving next, this is something, if you came last time, you might have seen this housing prototype layout. This just is showing all the 3 housing prototypes that have been created for this community. And these are all drafts, and they're up to you to give us feedback in case that you catch anything that you would like to speak up about. So these will be for view on all the tables and up on the side of the room here too. And I think that's so if you're wondering what the live work would entail, it would be a residential area above a commercial storefront. So thinking of the old historic Hanapepe Main Street or places in Lihue or in Koloa where there's housing that is above. Although some of those spaces are not used anymore, it's just a mixed use residential type that could be added into the community to provide commercial space directly underneath of residences. And yeah, I think that's it. I'll turn it back to Kimmy.
So far, you put that they said, like, for the first stuff, like, where the road would come from? Kaua'i road,
Oh, no, that one would come from the highway.
the highway.
Yeah. So we can, will be, you know, where the wastewater treatment plant has an access already here. So this gets extended up. So this is actually honestly the main access to the community. But there will be connections this way to the existing roads, because that's where the existing infrastructure is coming from. And so I think I told you, Uncle Barry, we are maintaining a very wide, it gets how wide, Kira, at the top? It's like over 100 feet of, we're just preserving, because that's where the existing drainage is actually flowing right now. There's some inlets that existed as part of when they, were farming all this area. There's an existing drainage ditch here. So we're gonna preserve all of that. So that's, at the top, over 100 feet, and then it gets narrower as you get closer to the sports complex, and that's where the drainage will then go west, right? So there's those two ditches that I mentioned we've preserved in the plan, as well as the one that kind of cuts in the middle. This is that yellow line you saw, the jurisdictional determination. So our civil, we actually have sized this way bigger than what the engineer standards required, just because we know and we heard from everyone that there's a lot of concern of the water coming off Malka areas. And so there's actually a green buffer all along the Malka edge of the houses as well, and then on this side too. So we just wanted to make sure we had ample space to allow water to flow and not inundate the homes that are being presented, even though they're not technically wetlands according to the Army Corps. So there's this huge green buffer that will be there between the existing community and the new homes. And that's why Uncle, like this road, we're gonna try to keep it as flat as possible. So if it's dropping where you guys are in your community, we're gonna try to flatten it as much as possible so it cannot speed and cannot just straight, speed through. So we had our engineers look at it. Going east-west, those roads are actually pretty flat. It's like 1% to 2%. So you're not gonna have the speeding, coming from your guys' neighborhood and cutting through the community. But we will still look at like other traffic calming. There is some slope going Malcolm Mackay though, right? So this one is probably on the order of what, 5%, but still not too bad. So we are gonna try to minimize those kind of issues in terms of the design. Yeah. Yeah, totally understand. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, understand. But we've also put like, you'll see it easier when you look at the printed plans, and online, it'll be all online too. There's also pedestrian paths that we have throughout. So there's these kind of beige skinny lines that show like all the community paths throughout. So as well as, where Kira showed the section of the greenway with the equestrian path, we have it going all the way around too. And then, throughout the community and sports uses, we would make sure there's a connection to the school so the kids don't have to go all the way down, right, to the highway. They can cut through here. We have, you give us your thoughts on this. A lot of people thought it would be good to have this kind of relief road, so it's wide enough for people to drive. So if there's like football or like Waimea town celebration stuff kind of happening in all of these areas, people don't have to walk or bike along the highway, right? They can get to it here, but it would be blocked off, so you wouldn't have through traffic for the school, right? Because we don't want to have cars cutting through right by the school in the park, right? This is going to be just pedestrian bike, unless there's some big event, and then you would open it up for that to have the cars be able to get out in multiple directions. I think the other thing, those are kind of the big things, but we are trying to keep that green buffer, Uncle, between the existing community over here, your Waimea Sunset, and the new homes. So let me get back to where I was to finish up. We would love your input on anything and everything, so go ahead and mark it up. One more thing I wanted to point out on the kind of more detailed site plans is that we had the architects design the floor plans. So if you have a growing family, right, like if this is kind of your starter home, we made sure there's enough space in the back of the homes that you could either do an ARU or an addition. And so that if, you'll see, it's hard to see on the screen, but we have kind of dashed a future potential addition for like another bedroom. So we made sure that there would be a way to connect through the interior of the house to that addition. So that's what you'll see, like, you know, like on this part, this roof line is actually where the addition is, right? There's actually not a room here, but that's what those would pop out, and you would have an addition on the back side of those homes that you could add later on. So what we would love now is for you to give us input on all of them. We have like 6 stations, so we're gonna lay out all of the site plans, the street sections, the kind of zoom in of those housing prototypes for you guys to give us feedback on. We'll have them up over here too if you can't quite get to it. And what we would love for you guys to do, mark it up. If you don't want to do it here or you gotta go, there's a QR code on all of the prints that you can scan, and you can give us your feedback online. Please there's little flyers with the QR codes too, so if you know folks who couldn't make it and want an easy way to give them the links to our website or the survey, go ahead and grab the little flyer at the front desk where you guys signed in. And if you didn't sign in, please sign in, that way we can keep in touch with you and give you updates as we go. We also have the plans up at Waimea Library. So if they want to see a hard copy, or if you have folks that can't get to websites easily, it's at the library on the bulletin board, and there's hard copies of the survey printed, and there's a comment box to collect them. So if they're not as tech savvy or don't have access, please let them know they can go to the library and give feedback. We're collecting your input through the end of April. Again, our website is waimea400housing.com. And then if you get all the input from you folks, end of April, come back to you, hopefully sometime maybe late May, to present the final. So this final is the one that will go into the EIS, the state level EIS that I mentioned before that Bowers and Kubota will be doing. And they will be planning separate community meetings from us. So they'll follow us when we present the final master plan, since that's what will go into their environmental study. So I'm going to turn it back over to Steve.
Yeah, so thank you, Kimmy, and again, thank you folks for coming out. Again, I mentioned the home buyer or home ownership opportunities. If you guys have any questions or know of anybody that might need to, our staff is here to assist with that. And then we also have food. Please help yourself to food. And
we'll have them up over here too if